Hello, it's Tom Strasser, and I want to talk to you about a topic of surrender. Surrender. To cease resisting, to cease fighting, to release all struggle, to give up everything. And it's a word that I used to hate and now I love because I used to think surrender, give up. I'm never going to give up. They've taught me all my life you never give up, you just keep trying, you keep going. And I've learned also some very important things about surrender. And one of these I want you to up front is it's impossible to have struggle and surrender at the same time. It's impossible. I'm either doing one or the other. So when I surrender, I release all the struggle. So how do I evaluate what I should surrender and what I shouldn't? And that's what I want to talk about. When do we surrender? Number one, when do we surrender? That really works in our life. Number two, what do we surrender? And number three, how do we surrender? Those three topics. I'm going to cover them very quickly and very generally. When do we surrender? Well, I would suggest that we surrender. We cease fighting, cease resisting whenever the price of continuing what we're doing is greater than the price of giving up, of letting go. When we actually look at something and say, this is just not worth it anymore, that whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm getting, it's just not worth it, it's not working, then I should surrender. What should I surrender? Well, I have come to understand, and one of the biggest things in my life, I've worked as an engineer, worked as a very practical person. I had to come to understand I have an inner life in through here, and I have an outer life. And for quite a part of my life, I let the outside, what's going on out here, dictate how I felt inside. And I've learned to separate these two. And I've learned that I also have the power to do that. And the power is here in my mind and the spiritual power within. But how to separate that outer life and the inner life. That means I don't let what's going on out there affect me nearly as much. I don't let the people push my buttons nearly as much. I don't let all these things control what's happening in here because this is where I live, right down through here. This is where I have the peace of mind, the serenity, the happiness, the joy, or the sadness, the anger, the discontent. This is it. So how do I do it? I have to learn that I want the inner life to have contention. I want peace of mind. So anything that really affects this peace of mind and peacefulness inside, I should consider whether I need to surrender that. And I have to really realize one of the biggest things I've had to learn, and it's been difficult. How do I know what I should surrender? I have to look at the fact that anything I cannot control, I better surrender. If I am letting the things I can't control upset me in here, I need to look at releasing them and letting them go. The other things I come up with was, I do engineering. Had the engineering problem-solving techniques. How to solve problems like an engineer is very practical. But the first part of this we call differentiation. How to differentiate what's a real problem and what's not a problem. A real problem is something that threatens my physical, mental, or spiritual well-being. An immediate threat to my physical, mental, or spiritual well-being. That's a problem. Anything else is an illusion or a fantasy. So how do I determine what is a real problem? What I might need to release? Because if it's not a real problem, I absolutely need to learn to let it go, to surrender it. I have to learn to separate these problems out. So what is an illusion and how can I separate these? One of the first questions, is it really a problem? Is it a direct and immediate threat to my physical, mental, or spiritual well-being right now? Is it? Is it an immediate threat? Number two, is it my responsibility? Do I need to solve this problem? Or is somebody else's problem? Is it my problem? Number three, can I do anything about it today? Because see, if I can't do anything about it today, it's not a problem today. By definition, it's not a problem today. May become a problem next week, next month, then I'll have to do something about it. So, okay, if it's not a problem today, it's an illusion. So I have to learn to release those things. And then the other one is, do I really want to solve it? Those four questions. Do I really want to solve it? Because some things are just irritations. They're not that big a deal. So those are four questions I can look at and evaluate. What do I need to let go of? How do I need to release these things? And that's what we're going to talk about in a second, is how to release these. So if I turn on television and I see what's happening out there in the world and I get all upset about it, get frustrated, and I think, oh my gosh, this is terrible, become judgmental, let it affect my contention. It may give me contention inside. Let it affect my peace of mind, my inner life. I'm watching TV and that happens. I can either turn TV off or I can not let it bother me. I can learn I can't control any of this. Can't control a single thing that's happening on that television set. No, I can't. So why should I get upset? But then how do I release these things? And that's one of the key things about this, because you can do it. First of all, we have to evaluate, as I said, what's really a problem, what's not a problem, what's my responsibility, what's not my responsibility. Can I do anything about it today, or is it something that may happen in the future, and do I really want to solve it? So I have to learn to evaluate, and quite often it helps to write these down. Actually get a pencil and paper and write these things down, because then that puts it right in front of me, what it really is. And then I have to pray about it. Because see, I often, once something gets going up here in this mind of mine, I often do not have the power to make it just disappear. I don't have that power. But I have access to a power, this wonderful spirit power inside of me, that can make it disappear. And so I have to ask for help from my inner spirit, from God. I have to say, please help me be aware when I am reacting to something that I need to surrender. Help me to be aware that when I have contention and irritability or anger, whatever it is it something I need to surrender? Help me to be aware. And then I ask for the power to let it go. Help me see what I need to do to absolutely release this. To live without this as a problem in my life. To let it go. Surrender. Surrender to win. Surrender to have a life of peace and contentment. Because remember, we cannot struggle and surrender at the same time. It's one or the other.